Welcome back to the show. So I gotta say, I really don't understand what the point is of the Mike Pence presidential campaign. Now, I understand not every candidate jumps into the race with this expectation that they're going to have a reasonable shot at winning, but you can usually piece together what the motive is behind someone running for president. Looking at the Republican candidates right now, I think there's only two candidates who went into this thing with a reasonable shot at being able to win. Donald Trump, of course, being one of them, and he actually can win, right? He can not only win the nomination, he could maybe even win the general election. We'll have to wait and see. He's also running as a defense strategy to keep himself out of prison. Ron DeSantis is the other candidate who jumped to this thing thinking that he could win, I think, because back after the midterms, he looked unbeatable. He won his re-election by 19, 20 points, and people were speaking very highly of him at the time before everyone realized he doesn't have what it takes to take on Donald Trump, and he doesn't really have much of a personality. But these other candidates like Vivek Ramaswamy, I don't think he got in thinking that he could win, but maybe he thought he could raise his name recognition. Now he's a household name in some circles, so he's doing quite well in that regard. Nikki Haley, maybe she thought that she would have a path to another cabinet position. Maybe she thought that being a minority female candidate, she would have a unique path in this race, and if Donald Trump was taken out with indictments and being unable to effectively run for president, she would be the one waiting in the wings. We have Tim Scott, who I think just wants to run for vice president or maybe serve in a cabinet position under a second Trump presidency. We have Chris Christie, who clearly just wants to take down Donald Trump for personal reasons. He has a personal vengeance against Donald Trump, and he wants to try to take him down one-on-one on the debate stage. And then some of these other candidates, the zeros and ones as we call them, they may just be in it for more name recognition, maybe a cabinet position, maybe a Fox News or CNN contributorship. Maybe they're trying to sell a book. But when it comes to Mike Pence, what is he going for in this race? He's currently polling at 5%, which isn't the worst, but you're also not going to win any states with 5%. You're also not going to win the nomination with 5%. And he's running on his record as Donald Trump's vice president, even though Trump and Trump supporters hate him now, and in some instances wanted to kill him on January 6, 2021. So it just seems to be like a incoherent political strategy. Case in point, Mike Pence went on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd over the weekend, and he got a question he wasn't prepared for, it seems, which is, do you consider yourself to be a MAGA Republican? And here is how the former vice president chose to answer the question.
Do you consider yourself a MAGA Republican?
I'm incredibly proud of what we did in the Trump-Pence administration for 4 years, and you better believe it. In those 4 years, after 8 years of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression, 8 years under Barack Obama and Joe Biden that saw military cuts that hollowed out our military, 8 years of liberals on our courts. Under the Trump-Pence administration, with the support of MAGA Americans, we literally did make America great again.
Do you feel like you're a MAGA Republican or not?
That pandemic struck. And look, I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. I've always said that. Yeah. People who know me know those are my values, those are my ideals, and I really believe that the agenda that I've always been about, that I'm looking forward to taking to that debate stage, is the agenda that'll bring this country all the way back.
So you can tell that Mike Pence was caught off guard here and his normal talking points weren't going to work, so he really had to stumble through that one. He doesn't exactly say yes to the question of whether he's a MAGA Republican, but he also doesn't say no. He does say at one point, you better believe it, but I think he was answering his own question there about whether he was proud of his record serving as Trump's VP rather than whether or not he was a MAGA Republican. And let's also rid ourselves with this idea that there's anything more to the MAGA movement than Trump cultishness. Now, some try to argue that MAGA is about nationalism and putting America first before other countries. It's about protectionism when it comes to trade and instituting tariffs. It's about being hardline on immigration. It's about being anti-establishment, being anti-media, being pro-law and order. That one is especially funny now given the context of what's going on with all the Trump charges. But let's be real. Being MAGA is just about being a Trump suck-up. It's not about policy issues. It's never been about policy issues. It's about unabashedly supporting the failed former president, never crossing him no matter what he does, and being willing to defend him at any moment, even when Trump is doing things that are indefensible. So Mike Pence caught between a rock and a hard place with this question. But then again, that's been his entire 2024 campaign. And I think that this question here by Chuck Todd was deeply emblematic of exactly what's going on with Mike Pence.